Hello and welcome to Safe Schools. I'm Curtis Graves.
And I'm Andy Howard.
Andy, we have a great show, a couple of great shows actually, but one in particular that we're going to start off with first. But
Okay.
How's everything going with you?
It's good, Kurt. I'm excited about today, and I think we're going to have a really good show today with some interesting dialogue. I had opportunity to meet with our guests and talk a bit, and I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today.
We'll be right back.
I'm Ashley Rich, District Attorney. Today I want to talk to you about a program that we at the District Attorney's Office has with the Mobile County Public School Systems to help with the bullying issues that are going on in today's world because of social media and because our young people think it's okay to bully others. It's not okay to bully others. Bullying is repeated verbal and physical abuse, ongoing verbal and physical abuse. We at the Mobile County District Attorney's Office want to help the community, we want to help the public school system, and we want to stop bullying within our community. It's really, really important that we do so. And parents need to be responsible if their child is either being bullied or if their child is a bully. Parents need to be involved to stop the bullying or to help the child if they are being bullied. And we at the Mobile County District Attorney's Office and the Mobile County Public School System are also here to help.
Hey, and we're back. Thank you for staying with us. And I would love to introduce you today to our guest, Assistant Chief Clay Godwin of the Mobile Police Department. Chief Godwin, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We had a little conversation before we got started, so I'd love for our audience to know a little bit about you. I'd like to introduce you to the audience and talk a bit about who you are and how you became a police officer. And you know, I thought that was an interesting conversation. I'd like to discuss it a little bit. Would you mind sharing with the audience?
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Mobile. My father's lived here since he was 3 years old. They lived on McGregor when that was outside the city limits, and O'Shell Road was actually a shell road made out of oyster shells.
Shell Road, okay.
And so that's how long my family's been here.
I got dating yourself a little bit, Chief, but go right
I
ahead.
know, I did date myself a little bit. I've been in police work for going on 27 years. I got into this profession purely by accident. It wasn't my path in life when I started. I went to Auburn University and actually got a degree in chemistry.
Pause for a second.
Yeah.
Police
settled
officer,
in for a second.
Chemistry, degree in chemistry.
It doesn't seem like the most predictable path. That's not what you would expect.
Well, my family, I don't have any law enforcement, and all the lawyers are business lawyers, but you kind of get conditioned when you're coming up as a child, I think, to go down paths that are predetermined by other people. I was either going to be in business or a doctor or a lawyer, and that's not by any pressure, just that's where my mindset
Chief,
of my
let me ask you this question. What made you decide to go into law enforcement of all things? I mean, that's a huge turn of events, from chemistry, going to school for chemistry, learning all these formulas and all these other things. I'm not a chemistry major.
Totally out of the box. Totally out of the box.
So what made you decide to go into law enforcement?
Well, like I said, I was training for medical school, and I actually went to medical school at South Alabama. I finished a year at medical school, but I just decided that wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. Didn't feel connected with that. I was going through the motions and not very happy, so stopped school for a little while, and I met a fireman in Mobile, of all things, at a social event, and he said that he was a reserve police officer, and I didn't even know what that was. I said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, you know, they have a reserve program to where you wear a uniform and a gun and all like that, just like a police officer, and you volunteer your time and you ride with another sworn police officer, and you have the arrest powers when you're with that officer." I thought it sounded like an interesting thing to do, and I was looking for something to kind of serve the community anyway because I was born and raised here. So I started doing that, and I like to say that I caught the bug with police work because I was good at it, and I was born and raised in Mobile, but I never felt like I was a part of Mobile until I started serving it. You know, I lived in Mobile, but I thought my life was just my little house or wherever I was living and what I was doing, and that was all that I had ownership of.
But community service, that's a bug, isn't it? It makes a difference in your perspective of who you are and your connection to the community and your self-image even, how you see yourself.
Absolutely.
So why don't you get started doing that?
Well, it's just that when you're serving people, especially as a police officer, you just cover the whole gamut of people reaching out to you for help and things that are sometimes very intimate or personal or things that they don't want other people to know. And so you really feel like you're involved with helping people on a daily basis.
It's rewarding to make a positive difference in somebody's life.
It is. It is.
Chief, how long have you been in law enforcement?
Going on 27 years.
27 years.
Yeah.
Seen a lot in 27 years, haven't you?
I've seen a lot, and we started out together, me and you, in the Ranger Unit, which is in public housing, and makes it a perfect fit for Curtis Graves doing what he's doing now with his combination of that and resource work like you were doing to what he's doing for the police department and Office of Strategic Initiatives.
Chief, one of the things you hit on earlier, especially for our viewers when we talk about career choices, especially, I mean, you thought you had made a career choice.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I was going that way from high school. I mean, I had already had the goal about what school I was going to go to, what kind of grades I had to make, where I was going to go to medical school. All those things were already laid out, but by me and a plan that I had thought was where my goal was. So.
You know, the wonderful thing about it, though, is this: even though you made a different choice at the end, so many young people today don't have that opportunity to have that conversation with people, their parents or anyone, about career choices, about what path to take. One of the programs we do, the Project AIM, Adult Identity Mentoring, focuses on just that, giving kids an opportunity to be engaged in a conversation with their peers about career choices, because they sometimes become amazed to know that that person that they're joking around with actually has a plan.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that I had thought many times about getting involved in some type of speaking at, whether it be the high school I went to or others, to kind of break people out of the mold of thinking that they have to do certain things or feel a mindset that pushes them in a certain direction, try to broaden your horizon and think what makes you happy as a person.
Right.
Yeah, Kurt and I were just talking. You saying that your son is in school. My son's just finished school, and I just recall the conversation. He was about third grade, and he said, "Dad, what you want me to be when I grow up?" I said, "Happy, son."
That's right.
And that's all about finding a career, finding something that makes you feel rewarded, makes you feel good about what contribution you're making to others. And if you feel good about that, you're going to do well in that job. So.
Yeah, my son's in the same thing. He's going to be a senior this year at Alabama, and he's very stressed out about wanting to know what he has to do for the rest of his life, like he has to make his decision tomorrow. And I didn't start in police work till I was 31, so my life, I like to say that my life didn't begin till I was 31. So I had good experiences before I was 31, sure, but I've certainly had some mind-bending ones since I turned 31 in this job.
Let's shift gears just a little bit. Let's talk about your career. You've been in law enforcement now for 27 years. That's a long time.
Long time.
Long time. So with that, let's talk about some of the things you've done during that tenure.
Okay, well, I started out in the Ranger Unit, which was a public housing unit. We rode two-man unit. I enjoyed that. It was you really got to see how people in lower income environments, how it affects them on a negative basis, and you try to have a positive influence on that. I can remember driving through Orange Grove during day shift and engaging with kids that are, and you could see at what level they would start to take a turn for the worse because of bad upbringing or environmental conditions that they're outside their control. And it's disheartening at times. But you try to make a difference, and it's good to see a light at the end of the tunnel, some of the ones that could get themselves out of that.
Well, those kids, at some point when you were engaged like that, I guess they got to see more than this guy in a car in a uniform. You got to became a person to them. And
well, we tried to get them to do that. It was the community-oriented policing had just come in when that started. That was in the late 80s, early 90s. And that was important, and we still do that today, but that was the virgin stages of it. So it was very challenging to try to get people to have buy-in to that. We were sincere about really trying to get them. Our roll call room was in the projects, was up in Happy Hills. So we were in the project.
As we continue this conversation, we're going to talk more about your career, but we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
To be in the AP program, it not only offers you great opportunities in the classroom, but also outside. Like being a member of the AP program, I can come into college already being a sophomore in college, so I can completely skip 1 year just by completing all my AP credits and by taking the classes and passing the exams. I would recommend other students to take AP classes because being a member of the program offers so many benefits and helps you decide what you want to do in the future and where you want to go with your life.
I'm Mac McElroy and I'm a junior here at Baker High School. My future plans after I graduate high school are to go to Auburn University and get a mechanical engineering degree. And taking the AP courses could help me get credits to decrease the amount of time I had to be in college. Baker High School has prepared me for college, career, and life readiness by allowing me to participate in these clubs and classes that I'm taking now.
Hi, and we're back. Chief Godwin, tell us a little bit more about your career and some of the other things you've done.
Well, after the Ranger unit, I got a little training with the mounted unit. It was in the special operations. The Ranger unit was part of special operations, so was the mounted unit, and my lieutenant at the time was in charge of the mounted unit as well, and they had an extra horse at one time, so I got certified with the mounted unit. It was entertaining. I grew up with riding horses as a young child, so that was enjoyable. And I also like motorcycles, so I decided to try out for the traffic safety unit motor squad.
Right.
Ended up moving over, and for 3 years was a motorcycle officer with the city. Really enjoyed that, especially around Mardi Gras and
Well, that's what comes
impact
to
with
mind
the kids
as
and
you say
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
And that's another, it's a venue that you get to engage the public in a positive way.
Oh, you really do. Mardi
Riding those
Gras,
horses, riding those motorcycles.
they're very visible during Mardi Gras, and the kids love it, and they get a lot of kick out of the motorcycles coming down the street. Right. And so I did that for 3 years, and while I was there, I tried out for the SWAT team. There was a qualification tryout for that, and I was qualified for that, and they moved me over to the SWAT team. So for 2 years, I was a SWAT operator.
Let's pause for a second. Let's talk about the SWAT team for a second, because I'm sure a lot of viewers may be a little curious about that. Tell them what SWAT stands for.
Special Weapons and Tactics. At the time, it was called TRU, which was Tactical Response Unit. But we changed it back to SWAT now, which is what people, every time you tell somebody you worked on TRU, they say, what's that? I said, it's a SWAT team. They say, okay, I know what that is.
Now, given that, what are some of the qualifications that make you eligible to be a SWAT person?
Well, you have to be team-oriented, knowing your mission and what your role in that mission is, and you have to be very steady and steadfast with that. Of course, there's weapons proficiency and physical fitness. There's a lot of strenuous situations that you come involved in. I was on the SWAT team when we had the first fatal encounter of a SWAT team with the Mobile Police Department with Gwen's Lounge, where a gunman went in and killed one of the patrons and had shot another one and critically injured him and was holding the rest of them hostage. And we had to actually force entry into that building and eliminate that threat.
I remember that.
We had an officer shot in that. The first responding officers that tried to come in didn't know what they were getting, what they had, and one of them ended up getting shot. Luckily, he survived that wound.
You know, as at the bottom, at the end of the day, when a person feels afraid and they want something done, they want somebody with those kinds of skills to change that day and make it better.
It changed them for me. It changed my life. That I was part of the entry team on that operation, and after it was over with, the owner of the bar had been paralyzed by a gunshot, and we went and visited. Another SWAT member went and visited him in the hospital and gave him one of our SWAT hats, just kind of to check on him and see how he was doing, wanted him to know that we did care about what happened to him, and I really felt that we were really helping because we ended up saving his life. We also saved a young lady that was trapped in the back by herself in there as well.
And it goes to the point of this, you know, a lot of people, when they think about SWAT, they think about television. What television shows? They show things that oftentimes do not show a true depiction of what is. A SWAT team mission overall is to help reduce the risk of injury to people.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the whole goal, that's the whole intent, and you go in every day risking your life to do just that.
Risk your life to save a life.
Yeah.
That's right.
So-
and it worked that day for us. It really did.
Yeah. What are some of the other things you've done?
Well, let's see. I was on the SWAT team for 3 years, and That's a isolated unit. A lot of SWAT teams around the country are that in their main function, so they have other ancillary duties, and then so they can be of any rank. But I was a corporal while I was on the SWAT team, and when I made sergeant, I had to leave the SWAT team because they already had 2 sergeants, and those were only 2 billets that were open for that rank. So I came out of that and went into narcotics and was on the SLIDE team, which is street level interdiction drug enforcement. Jump out boys is what they used to call us back in the day.
Know it well. Know it well.
Matter of fact, we had back then there was a lot of record labels that people came up with, you know, trying to make them famous, and we used to have stickers on our car that said JOB Records for Jump Out Boys on our cars. So.
Yeah.
Jump out and get a record.
We did a lot of good there because we took a lot of guns off the street. I can remember one day of going just an 8-hour day, and we got 8 guns off the street, and not all at the same location, just that one day.
Yeah.
So we used to keep photographs in the office of the guns and drugs that we took off the street because you felt like you were really doing something.
You know, law enforcement is not a glamorous job.
No.
You know, television shows something that's completely oxymoronic to the reality of what is, right? I mean,
that's true.
So it's not a glamorous job. It's a job that someone has to do, and we are always looking for the right people to do that job because there's much to do.
There's a lot to do.
Yeah.
It's a highly skilled talent to take a gun from somebody who doesn't want to give it to you and do it safely.
Well, that's what's great about the Mobile Police Department, though, just in police departments in general, is that I don't care whether you have a GED or you have a master's degree in finance, there's always a place for you in the Mobile Police Department. We have over 18 specialized units that people could have expertise in, and everybody finds their own little niche about what they're good at.
So not only becoming a policeman, but there's all kinds of ways that you can make a difference.
Oh yeah, there's so many different ways to serve. And like I said, about every 3 years, it seemed like through either promotion in rank or just a job assignment, I used to change position into another field.
Okay. You know, let's conclude this. You've done quite a bit in your career as a law enforcement officer, which has now taken you to be the Assistant Chief of Police for Mobile PD. I mean, that's a lot to say within itself. Tell me, or tell us, tell the viewers, right now, what's one of the most compelling things that you find that concerns you in law enforcement today?
It's the youth violence. I mean, just this past week, we had a 17-year-old who's been arrested for murder. 17. And that's become, sadly, the norm in many communities. We don't want it to become a norm in Mobile. It just seems like when you're at that age, I think that you're just in a lot of peer pressure, so that if they're amped up and doing robberies, then you're going to do a robbery because that's what your friends do or whatever. And I think that the reason why the gun violence is so prevalent is the guns are there, and you get in an argument. Before it used to be a fist fight. Now you pull a gun when you get mad, and then if you pull it, you end up having to use it, or somebody calls you weak or something like that.
Has there been more of a draw to, or the allure to wanting to possess a handgun now, you think?
It's a chicken or the egg kind of thing. You'll find a lot of kids that get caught at school with a gun, and they always say the same thing: I got it for protection because I've been bullied at school or whatever like that. So there's ones that bring it to be the aggressor, and there's others that have to bring theirs in order to defend themselves against aggressors. So it's a vicious cycle, and we just got to do a better job. We are every day. This job's never perfect, and it's a moving target, and environment changes on any given day. And the programs that we're doing, that Commander Gray is in charge of with Office of Strategic Initiatives, all of those touch every age group in the school system, and you've just got to be connected there from one year to the next and not leave any gaps where they feel abandoned.
That's great. That's an interesting conversation. We want to take a minute, take a break, and we'll be back and we'll continue that discussion in just a minute.
We've established a culture of innovation here at Mary B. Austin. We've made it our goal to disrupt the status quo of traditional learning as we prepare our students for their future in this global society. We call our students the Austin Innovators because we want to develop outside-the-box thinkers. We want to develop students who think critically, who think entrepreneurially, and who can collaborate well with others. Our focus is entirely on our students and engaging them in meaningful, real-world learning experiences. Here at Austin, we've been able to do this through our seamless integration of project-based and service learning, the Talents Unlimited model for critical and creative thinking, design thinking and digital literacy, through our emerging technologies and communication labs, integration of fine arts, and a focus on 21st century skills and entrepreneurship.
To be in the AP program, it not only offers you great opportunities in the classroom, but also outside. Like being a member of the AP program, I can come into college already being a sophomore in college, so I can completely skip 1 year just by completing all my AP credits and by taking the classes and passing the exams. I would recommend other students to take AP classes because being a member of the program offers so many benefits and helps you decide what you want to do in the future and where you want to go with your life.
And we're back. Chief Godwin, the issues that we see in our communities, we know in law enforcement that we cannot resolve all these issues by ourselves. How important is the community in their engagement with law enforcement to the mission of keeping our communities safe or making them safer?
It's imperative. I mean, we certainly can't be everywhere at once. We got it at a strong strength, 500 officers. And Mobile's got over 250,000 people in it that we police and protect. And they have to be the eyes and ears of the police. And that comes with trust. And there's another program that we're doing that's unrelated to the youth, but we don't want to feel like they're abandoned once they get out of school. We got a Second Chance or Else program, the SCORE program. And what's important about that is not only the opportunity it gives to nonviolent drug offenders to give them an opportunity to get out, and we get them help in every way we can on that. It's the engagement with the civic leaders and the pastors and residents that live in the areas that we're policing for these programs. To make they're the ones that are an integral part of that.
To reduce recidivism, to keep them from going back to what they got in trouble doing. And
absolutely, and these civic leaders make the decision on who stays in the program and who does not. It gives them ownership of what's happening in their community with our help. And so that's just invaluable. And I was there when we started that program from the beginning, and all the community leaders on the first project we did were not engaged. They were very defensive. They didn't trust the police. They didn't trust what we told them we were going to do, but as the program progressed, they saw that we did exactly what we said we were going to do. We told them we were doing search warrants, when we were going to have raids to pick people up on distribution cases, and they saw that we told them the truth. And then we gave them the opportunity to be the ones to help decide how the program goes and who stays in and who does not, and what level of standard that they wanted to hold these people accountable to.
And I think what people don't understand as well, especially our viewers, because they don't know anything about the program unless they talk to one of us, is that the participants, it's not just about the person who's in the program.
No,
it's an extension that goes beyond that, because in our first program we had 9 participants, and of those 9, there were 36 children between the 9 of those men.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's remarkable, but it tells you another story of the lives of children who are part of, for lack of a better term, victimized by the issues that their parents decide are what they're involved in as it relates to the community. That's because they're the silent victim. They're the ones that no one knows about necessarily, but the issues that their fathers face, they also face.
Yeah, I mean, how many people are touched by that one person that you see? I mean,
the interconnectivity, yes, sir.
You spend all that time on one person. How many people does that save? But let's just say at the worst case scenario, you had maybe 3 or 4 participants in the program and none of them completed it. Look at the valuable communication services we provided to the civic leaders that are involved in it, how engaged they are. Like I was saying before, I saw it when it started, they were very defensive and didn't trust anything we say. If you go into those meetings now, it's their program. It's their police department. It's what they're doing to help us. So they feel like they're very defensive of it now. People that criticize it and crack holes in it, they're the first ones to stand up and protect it. And they didn't start out that way.
Well, it makes a difference when you see that something works. And the benefit, you know, like you said, those individuals that were receiving the benefit and the people that are attached to them to receive the benefit, that's 2 significant parts to it. But the other part to it is those people providing the benefit, they got something too.
Absolutely. And the ones receiving the benefit, not just their children, but how many people do they touch they're not even related to? A friend of theirs that saw the path that they took to get out of dealing drugs and those kind of things. So how many people that we'll never know how many people they touched?
Because you know their
Just
story.
that one person.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, you know, I want to shift gears one more time. Let's talk about something that that's important to you, like these other issues, but something that you're hoping that you can build up to be something more viable for the community, and that's the Law Enforcement Foundation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit and what that Law Enforcement Foundation is what's its mission?
Well, what got it started is that we have budgetary restraints within the police department as an entity of the city on what we can and can't spend money on. Those things are protected by government law. But there's a lot of things that we need to do that need to be funded that can't be funded by the private sector with the police department, and we can't give money to a private individual to assist with things. So the foundation is totally a private foundation. It's a board. There are police officers on it, but it is not a police department sanctioned foundation. It's a private one. It gives us opportunities to raise substantial amounts of money and to help the police department buy stuff outside their budgetary restraints. And also to help with programs. Commander Graves is working on their trauma-informed community, which started with the emergency room doctors trying to say, what can we do to keep from having the same people coming into our emergency rooms and the tragic loss and the trauma on their families. You know, we just talked earlier about what happens after the police and the paramedics and all leave and you had a loved one maybe killed in your own home. There's blood on the floor, that kind of thing. They leave and it's all up to you to just deal with your life. And you can imagine the trauma that would cause in children or adults for that matter.
That's right.
So it's one of the things that we're going to be trying to use the foundation to address funding for. Also, helping with officers that are fallen in the line of duty. We had one killed in February that we're still reeling from the effects of that and the family that affects. And there's a lot of stuff after the lights and cameras go off. These people have lives to live, and we have to help them. So that's just another one of the things. And since the foundation is really new, we're kicking off, and we have some really good board members that are helping hit big benefactors and corporations. There's a lot of foundations out there, and their purpose of their foundations is to fund other foundations. So we're trying to tap into those resources to help.
That's wonderful. You know, Chief, you said you went to school with the goal of being a doctor to save people. Well, you still found a way to do it.
I did.
And so, you know, versus fixing the wrong, preventing the wrong matters too. And so I think that's a wonderful choice and a wonderful pursuit, and I think you've made a difference in our community.
Well,
happy to have you.
And
Thank
Chief,
you.
I will say this, you know, as we wrap up, you talked about a lot of things that I don't want people to think that this is the only time they can actually learn more about these programs. We have a website that they can go to, and anytime they want to know more about the programs that the police department offer, they can always go to that that website.
Absolutely. And I'll say like they say on TV, we're hiring.
We're hiring. I like
It's a
that.
good place to work.
That's a good finish.
I like
Good place
that.
to work.
Thank you, sir.
Been safe schools.